So in today's video, I'm going to be ranking every League 2 club's away fans from the 2023-24 campaign. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 200 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We're on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed. If you haven't already, with that post notification bell on, it's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts on as well down in the comment section down below. I'm sure you're probably going to disagree with my ranking, but I'm basing this on every team who came to Valley Parade last season. I went to every single home game for Bradford City. I witnessed every club's away fans at least once, and in today's video I'm going to put them in a tier list maker and debate between who has the best and who has the worst fans in the division from the season just gone by. Starting out then with Colchester United. Now they brought 283 fans for the opening home game of the season for Bradford City. I would assume that would mean it was Colchester's first away game. Obviously it was in summer, so still the 6-week holidays, and they brought 283. It's not a particularly great turnout. When they scored, it wasn't too bad, to be fair, the noise that were coming out of that away, and obviously we did go on and end up winning the game 2-1. I certainly think there was worse to come to Valley Parade last season, but there was definitely better, so I'm going to stick Colchester in poor. Crewe Alexandra up next then, and they only brought 334. Again, I think this one was still in the 6-week holidays. We did beat them 1-0. It was a very boring game, to be fair, but considering Crewe's only about an hour and a half away, I did expect a lot more than 334. Obviously, they did go on and make the playoffs in the end, but on the whole, I think everything considered, it was a pretty poor turnout from Crewe, and obviously you can kind of understand the lack of atmosphere because they lost, but for only being an hour and a half away and not even bring 350, I think is a really poor turnout. Grimsby Town, for me, have one of the most underrated fan bases in the EFL. When they are performing, they are one of the best sets of supporters in the EFL, in my personal opinion. It was such a shame to see them in the National League for so long until they came back up into League 2, had a couple seasons in there before they got relegated again, but now they're back, and every time they come to Valley Parade, I'm massively impressed with the Grimsby Town supporters. They're going straight in that class category. They brought 1,729, absolutely brilliant turnout, and in the end we obviously got quite a late equaliser. This game was on Sky as well, so you got to factor that in as well, early kickoff and all that sort of stuff, but it was still a really good turnout from the Grimsby fans, and they made a decent amount of noise in that away, and so they definitely go in that class category for me. Harrogate Town, obviously about half an hour, 45 minutes away. We drew 1-1 in this one. We scored a 95th minute equaliser, but there wasn't really much noise coming out of that Harrogate away, and they brought 451, which for a journey which is less than an hour away, it is really poor. But Harrogate are not the biggest of clubs. I'll probably say top end of poor, bottom end of average. It's certainly one that you can debate between, but I'm probably going to stick them in that poor category. I think if people saw that I put Harrogate in the average category, considering their attendances and their support everywhere else, then I think you've obviously got to factor that in. But in this one, in a derby, to only bring 450, I think was a pretty poor turnout. While Walsall only brought 427 supporters, they beat us at 3-1, and the atmosphere in that away end wasn't awful. I'll probably stick them in the average category. I know it's not the shortest of journeys. You think Walsall, it's around the Midlands, you might be thinking an hour and a half, 2 hours, but going there and back from Walsall, it always seems to take around 2.5 hours, which I've never really understood why, because it doesn't really seem that far away. It's a very deceptive, is that the right word, away day. But yeah, Walsall brought 427. It could have been better. Certainly it could have been a lot worse. So they beat us 3-1, so as expected, the atmosphere was a little bit better than normal. Obviously there's been a lot better to come to Valley Parade, but there's definitely been a lot worse. Swindon Town brought just shy of 600 supporters, 599 on the dot to Valley Parade. It was Kevin McDonald's first game as temporary caretaker manager, whatever his job title was in the end, and we beat them 1-0. Bobby Poynton scored his first goal for Bradford City, and again very similar to Walsall. I'll probably say around that sort of average category. I think Swindon, when they're successful and they're having a good season, can certainly be in this good category, but it was a horrible season for them. I really do hope they get their off the field issues sorted up, their owner sells up and all that sort of stuff, because what is going on at a big club like Swindon for this level is really not nice to see. But in terms of their support of Valley Parade this season, I'll stick them in average. Now Wrexham brought the largest amount of supporters to Valley Parade last season, 2,624. We drew 1-1. We scored quite late on to equalise. Paul Mullin opened the scoring though in front of their fans. I think there was a couple on the pitch, but I absolutely cannot put Wrexham anywhere. I mean, I didn't mean to do that. Anywhere other than class. Their fans were absolutely brilliant, and maybe if it had been a couple of years ago, if they'd have come to Valley Parade, would they have brought over 2,500? Maybe not. But from my personal experience of what I saw of the Wrexham fans, they were absolutely class. The amount of numbers that they brought as well. It's not like it's 30 minutes around the corner like Harrogate Town is. But Wrexham, fair play to them, they brought a decent amount of numbers and they made a really good amount of noise, to be fair. I would probably still say Grimsby were better than Wrexham, but to bring the most amount of numbers to Valley Parade, and it's not like, you know, they won the league at Valley Parade like Leyton Orient did in the previous season. It was the middle of October, I think it was, and their fans are very good, so they definitely go in that class category for me. Barrow brought 556 to Valley Parade, and Barrow's a very interesting one because I genuinely think their away fans are good. Like, I think their support is really underrated. For such a small club, to bring over 550 I think is a good turnout. Yes, they beat us 2-1 and that obviously helps to improve the atmosphere, but I do think their fans are really underrated. I'm pretty sure I put them in good last season and I got quite a lot of grief for that and stick, and maybe on paper you would say Swindon have got better away fans than Barrow, but based on my personal experience of their time at Valley Parade, Barrow had better fans than Swindon, and obviously you've got to factor in the result into that. If we'd have beat Barrow 1-0 and Swindon would have beat us 2-1, who knows what it would have been like, and you know, all these sort of things do play into my ranking, but Barrow, from my personal experience, did have good fans. Before we go any further though with today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. We are aiming for 200 likes on today's video, and don't forget as well to subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are pushing for 9,000 subscribers before the start of the season, so make sure you are subscribed. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below, and let's get into Accrington. I'm not going to waste too much time on Accrington Stanley because it's only about an hour down the road and they didn't even bring 300. They're going in Library. We beat them 1-0. It was a very boring game. Their fans made absolutely no noise, and I know they're a really small club, but it's an hour away and they didn't even bring 300, so I can't put them in anywhere else other than Library. Morecambe fans, I don't think were too bad, to be fair. They brought exactly 420 and we drew 2-2. They were 2-0 up in the game and they made a decent amount of noise, to be fair, when they were 2-0 up. Obviously we managed to pull it back to 2-2 in the end. I'd probably put them in the bottom end of average. I certainly think they were better than any of the teams that were in poor, but definitely not better than Walsall or Swindon for me, so I'm happy to stick the Shrimps in that average category. Stockport County, I think, brought the third most to Valley Parade this season with 2,404. It was a couple days after Christmas, midweek, absolutely outstanding support. It finished 0-0. Stockport County fans definitely have to go in that class category. Like I mentioned, to bring that many supporters and a midweek game just after Christmas, I think it was the 29th of December, something like that. Yes, the top of the league, and the game still only finished 0-0, but I thought their fans on the whole were absolutely brilliant, and the amount of numbers that they brought for a midweek game just after Christmas, anything other than class, I think I would be doing them a massive disservice, so they're definitely going in that top category along with Wrexham and Grimsby. Crawley Town brought exactly 103, and while they beat us 4-2, to only bring 103, I think I'm going to have to put them in that Library category, not necessarily because of the noise, even though when they scored you couldn't really hear them, to be fair. They battered us, they comfortably deserved to beat us, and I know it's not exactly just around the corner, but Crawley were on decent form at the time. Again, it was just after New Year in that January period, and you do see away attendances dip a little bit in January, but I don't think if it had been at the start of the season or near the end, they would have brought 2,000 to Valley Parade. You know, they barely even get that at home. Obviously, on the field, it's been a massively successful season for Crawley, and I don't want to take any credit away from that. I predicted them to finish bottom of the table. They've been promoted into League One, so massive credit has to go to Scott Lindsay and his side. But in terms of their supporters at Valley Parade, they brought 103. They scored 4 goals, and I barely heard them, so they're going in that Library category. Salford City brought 187, and yeah, they're going in that Library category. It was a Tuesday night, to be fair. I think it was a rearranged game. We drew 1-1 in the end. They scored quite early on. We equalised just minutes after, and then the game kind of fizzled out towards the end of it, but I didn't hear their supporters at all throughout the match. Even when they scored, you could barely hear them. To bring less than 200 when the journey is about an hour away, again, it's really poor support, and they have to go in that Library category. AFC Wimbledon only brought 387. I think this was just after the January transfer window had closed at the start of February, and I must admit I was really disappointed with their supporters, because I remember back to the 18-19 season when they stayed up on the final day. I think Aaron Ramsdale was playing in goal that day for Wimbledon. We obviously got relegated. There was fans on the pitch, there was pyros everywhere, and their fans were absolutely outstanding that day. I think they sold both Midland Road and the TL Dallas, but since then I've kind of been a little bit underwhelmed with Wimbledon, because I think that was the first real time I remember being wowed by an away fan base from somewhere who'd come so far. I know obviously the stakes were massive in that game, but since then their support at Valley Parade has been fairly average. I think I would stick them in that bottom end of average. It was a 0-0 game, not really much to get behind, but I thought they were pretty cowardly in the way that they played, to be honest with you. They clearly came for the point, but when at the time they were challenging for the playoffs, and I think that must have frustrated their supporters, because if they would have actually gone for it, who knows what could have happened in terms of their outcome of the season. They made a couple signings so far, Mike Stevens coming in from Forest Green, but that's not relevant at all to their supporters, who were on the whole pretty average. MK Dons brought 209 on a Tuesday night, and I'm not going to discredit them massively and stick them in the library category, because they've been battered 4-0, and I think any team who gets battered 4-0 and they had a number of supporters who stayed until the end, you've got to give them credit for that. I'm going to stick them in the bottom end of Polo. AFC Wimbledon's fans were definitely much better than the Milton Keynes fans, but for me personally, 209, it's not outstanding. Obviously they didn't really make much noise, but they didn't really have much to get behind, so I think it's only fair really if I stick them in that poor category. Sutton United brought 87 supporters to Valley Parade, 87 on a Saturday. What an absolute waste of a spot in the Football League they were, and I'm not even trying to be disrespectful when I say that, to not even bring 3 figures on a Saturday when your team need your support the most in one of the biggest stadiums in the division, and they simply did not show up. We beat them 1-0, it was a very scrappy goal, but we managed to get the win in the end, and I thought their fans were terrible, in all honesty, absolutely dreadful. Now this was around the time that Bradford City stopped announcing their attendance figures, and while I went through a number of different sources to find out the numbers for all the away fans, whether that be the club's own reports, the away club's reports, their away club's reporters, Bradford City's reporters, just trying to find the attendance figures anywhere, for some reason, for some of these games, because Bradford City fans, there were about 6,000 there at this period, no attendance figures got announced publicly. So for Doncaster and a couple other teams, we don't have an exact figure. Doncaster fans, they weren't awful. Obviously we drew 1-1. Their goal, I still think it was offside, to be honest with you, and after that they went on an absolutely unbelievable run. I certainly wasn't massively impressed by them. I would probably say they were better than the teams on average. I would probably stick them in the good category. We've certainly seen better at Valley Parade this season, but we've definitely seen a lot worse. I know a lot of Doncaster fans don't like me very much because of my tweets on Twitter trying to wind them up and all that sort of stuff, but I think their support was okay this season. I'm not going to give them too much credit, but you know, it did the job. Forest Green, again, another one of the teams where the attendance wasn't announced publicly because of how poor Bradford City support was at Valley Parade, and at the time I do not blame the supporters whatsoever, but Forest Green, they brought barely any. To be fair, they beat us 2-0 and their fans weren't awful. I'd probably stick them towards the higher end of library, but it was still a poor turnout, all things considered. You know, thinking to the fact that at that moment in time, Steve Cottrell seemed to have turned things around and they were on a really good run of form. They beat us 2-0 and in the end it wasn't quite enough, but I think Forest Green Rovers fans could have turned up in a bit more numbers, could have made a bit more noise, but I'm still going to stick them in that library category. Mansfield Town, for me, the best support in the division that I've seen at Valley Parade this season. 2,495 stags in the Midland Road and the TL Dallas, and their fans are absolutely incredible. They battered us that day. We dropped our 2 best players at that moment in time in Brad Halliday and Andy Cook. Disaster class from Graham Alexander. Stefan Rupp was in attendance, 3-0 down after 15-16 minutes, something like that, and their fans were absolutely incredible. Did not shut up from minute 1 to 90. I was almost tapping along with the Stags are going up LA chant because it was just so repetitive and it was getting stuck in my head, and Mansfield fans were absolutely brilliant this season. I'm delighted for them to be finally promoted and back up in League One. I think they've made a signing today of some Australian international, which seems like a really good sign, I think, from St Mirren, so good luck to them in League One, but their fans for me were definitely the best I've seen at Valley Parade this season. Notts County brought over 1,000 on a Tuesday night, and I would say their support was pretty good, to be honest with you. I don't quite think it deserved to be in that top category. Maybe if the game was played on the Saturday, who knows, but they brought exactly 1,008 supporters in total, and it was a pretty solid turnout from them, to be fair. They beat us 3-0, I think the first game since before Christmas where they'd won away from home and kept a clean sheet. This was the middle of the March when they played us, and again was on the couple of game period where we just kind of threw the playoffs away. In the end we finished a point or two outside of the playoffs, and that run really did kill us, but losing 3-0 against Notts County, to be fair, bringing over 1,000 on a Tuesday night, brilliant support, and I think the noise they made was pretty solid as well, so for me personally they're going in that good category. The Tranmere Rovers attendance wasn't announced publicly, unfortunately, even though at that point we'd started to turn the form around a little bit. I think it was on Good Friday or Easter Monday. I think it was Easter Monday actually. We beat them 2-0. Their turnout was pretty solid solid, I would say. Their atmosphere, obviously considering they lost 2-0, wasn't awful. I'd probably stick them in the bottom end of the good category. We've certainly seen a lot worse come to Valley Parade this season, but we've definitely seen a lot better. Gillingham brought 372. Again, we beat them 1-0. It was a pretty boring game, to be honest with you. They didn't really offer much their support. Wouldn't really say I heard them at all. I'm thinking right at the top end of poor. I expected a lot better from the Gills fans. I think at that moment in time, they had an outside chance still of the playoffs as well. I know it's not exactly around the corner, and you know, going from Kent to Bradford, it's not the nicest of journeys. Trust me, I've done it the other way on a Tuesday night and it was absolutely awful. But Gillingham fans, for me, I think on a Saturday, to not even bring 400, I expected better, and I'm chucking them in the poor category. The final day of the season saw Newport County visit Valley Parade, and they brought 357. And to be fair, I'm going to give them credit, because I think they'd lost, was it 7 or 8 on the bounce coming into this game. They had absolutely nothing to play for. Final day of the season. Fair play to all those supporters who did turn up. It was, I'm going to say, an average turnout from them, to be honest with you. I expected a lot worse, considering everything like what I've just mentioned there. I did expect a lot worse, and I know you'll probably look at this ranking and you go, well, when Gillingham fans went to Colchester, they were absolutely brilliant, but you got to remember, I'm basing this on all these clubs that come in to Valley Parade and what their numbers were like, what the result was like, what the day was like, if that makes sense. Was it a Saturday, was it a Tuesday night, and all that sort of stuff. But the final team we've obviously got to rank is mine, Bradford City. And I'm not being biased, but I think considering everything we've had to put up with this season, I think our support has been class. I think there's been teams that have been much better than us, and obviously I didn't go to every single away game last season. In fact, I missed quite a lot, to be honest with you, because of how poor we were for the large part. But the games that I did go to, I think the likes of Doncaster away, Wrexham away, for example, our fans were absolutely outstanding, and for me personally, we do deserve to be in that class category, considering everything we had to put up through in such a horrible season. On the whole, I think our support was pretty underrated, and I'm really happy with how balanced this tier maker has come out. I don't normally like to just put clubs in certain categories just to try and have a nice balance, but I think on the whole I'm quite happy with my ranking. To clarify then, in the library category we have Accrington Stanley, Forest Green Rovers, Crawley Town, Salford City and Sutton United. In the poor category we have Gillingham, Harrogate, Colchester Crew and MK Dons. In average we have Walsall, Swindon, Morecambe, Wimbledon and Newport. In good we have Notts County, Barrow, Doncaster and Tranmere, and in class we have Mansfield, Grimsby, Wrexham, Stockport and Bradford City. But I'm going to leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 200 likes, as I said at the start of today's video, that would be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are now on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed. If you haven't already, with that post notification bell on, it's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below who do you think were the best and worst fans to come to your club, and do you agree or disagree with my ranking? Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one. Peace.